Did he do it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I know
He did it.
You've been heavy on social media talking about it.
He did it. And I'm the only one who's been vocal about this long before it actually.
Would you be open to a plea bargain?
Well, it's not up to me. It's up to Mr. Combs, and I don't see it happening.
Why?
Because he believes he's innocent.
More fallout for Sean Diddy Combs. And this time a major law firm has dropped him as a client, but why now? Well, we're going to talk with renowned celebrity attorney Bradford Cohen to get his take on this latest move. Diddy's legal team just got a major spotlight moment courtesy of an upcoming documentary teased by none other than 50 Cent. It's no shocker, though, when you've got lawyers defending someone with a laundry list of accusations and witnesses lined up. You can't help but wonder if they got more skin in the game than just a paycheck.
Why is that not a fair outcome?
What he did here is on a magnitude of unlike anybody else you could imagine. A week after these public searches were televised, he gave us his passport. His children gave us his passport. He then paid off the mortgage entirely on his Miami home. $18 million. It's instructive that he's going to have a bail package ready so that if he was arrested, he would have something ready so that he could get out the next day and show the judge he's taking this very seriously, which he is, which is why 12 days ago, Chris, when we thought there's an indictment that may be coming, he flew to New York the very next day. And that's an extraordinary move for a defendant who's been under investigation that he's been aware of for at least 6 months. He has done everything somebody under investigation can do. I can't think of anything else that he could have done. He's fighting, he's innocent, and he's gonna be able to show.
I've been defending Diddy for a long time, and his decision to reject a plea bargain speaks volumes. Here's what he had to say about sticking with him through his year-long case. It's like watching someone play the devil's advocate, standing firm in the face of it all.
You be open to a plea bargain?
Well, it's not up to me. It's up to Mr. Combs, and I don't see it happening.
Why?
Because he believes he's innocent. He believes he's innocent, and what's more, he believes that he needs to stand up, not just for himself, for his family, and for everybody who's been targeted by the federal government.
Meanwhile, the prosecution isn't playing around. They just dropped evidence of Diddy allegedly sneaking in coded communications using other inmates' phone codes. Talk about bending the rules. This bold move not only broke prison protocols, but also shredded any trust in his ability to stay within legal boundaries, even behind bars.
But also, Shauna, I'm curious as to your thoughts here on these allegations, right, of witness tampering. We've heard these allegations that he was, using other inmates' phone accounts to try to make phone calls in a way to make it so that they wouldn't be monitored. And there's also this concern that he might be trying to influence the jury pool via social media, even while he's behind bars.
Absolutely, and I'm sure the judge really looked into that because although we know that these are allegations, there's been no evidentiary hearing as to whether or not these actually rise to the level of obstruction. Just the idea that he is not even following the rules that are enlisted by the prison is already a sign to the judge that he may not follow any conditions that are set forth. And so those type of allegations, whether or not there's been an evidentiary hearing, just speaks to the actions of the individual while incarcerated. And if you're not having good behavior at that time, the judge is going to look to say that, even if you're let out and left to your own devices, it's not going to get any better. So that has not played in his favor at all.
And Mike, if you can sort of read us in here on what this also says about the larger team around Sean Diddy Combs, noting here that the judge writes the sufficiency of any condition that would place trust in Combs and individuals in his employment, like a private security detail, to follow these conditions. I mean, they're really questioning everyone around him as well.
They are. And Kana, just listen to you and Shauna talk, I really began to think about not only his associates and who's on his payroll, but also Kana, his family. Sean Combs has a very strong immediate family with his children who also do hold a level of social currency and culture, and who also, too, are really influential on social media. I'm thinking about Kana recently. We saw that was posted on Instagram where the children were gathered around a table and was able to communicate with Sean Combs behind bars to wish him a happy birthday. And you can hear Sean Combs on the speakerphone. They're talking about the love they have for the father, The father is talking about the love that they have for them. So really signaling to any potential witnesses that his children are a tight unit, has great social media currency. Also, too, his sons are actually involved in the music industry, to which before he was arrested, his son made a rap song really questioning the federal government, really questioning potential witnesses to go forward against his father. So when you tie all those things together, you look at the social media dynamic, the social currency, the ability to use music to possibly influence and cross distress to amongst witnesses, that is all part of the safety to which
In the courtroom drama surrounding Diddy's case, the focus didn't shift to the content of his communications, but rather his blatant disregard for prison regulations. This raised serious concerns about his adherence to rules, with Judge Subramanian calling it a significant red flag. His behavior seriously undermined any trust in his ability to comply with release conditions. The case revolves around evidence showing Diddy's violation of Bureau of Prison (BOP) regulations during his pretrial detention, which seemed to obscure his communications with third parties. There was considerable discussion about how he allegedly used other inmates' PAC numbers to make calls, utilized a private messaging service to contact people, and even engaged in three-way phone calls. The core of the allegation was that he wasn't just breaking the rules, but he might have been reaching out to potential witnesses or even trying to influence jurors through a social media campaign. This raised questions about possible witness tampering and obstruction of justice. What makes this situation particularly interesting is Judge Subramanian's statement that the court didn't determine the content of these communications was improper. During the hearing, the issue wasn't so much about what Diddy was posting or whether others were posting for him on social media. Instead, the real concern was his blatant flouting of the rules, which made it difficult to monitor his activities. The court emphasized that this disregard for prison regulations was the problem, as it signaled a lack of respect for the legal process. Judge Subramanian pointed out that Diddy's willingness to circumvent BOP rules, especially when he knew the government was focused on witness tampering and obstruction, was evidence that the court couldn't trust the conditions of any potential release. The fact that these violations occurred during his efforts to secure bail, when he knew the government's concerns were centered on these issues, painted a troubling picture. The judge noted that this behavior, coupled with his accusations of obstruction, was deeply concerning. The court also cast doubt on the sufficiency of any release conditions that would rely on Diddy's trustworthiness or the integrity of those around him. His attorneys had suggested that he could be trusted to comply with release conditions, with plans for private security and an apartment in New York. However, Judge Subramanian expressed skepticism about the effectiveness of these measures, specifically doubting that his private security team would be immune to manipulation or influence. This raised further doubts about whether he could be trusted to follow the rules, especially under the intense scrutiny he was already under. In addition to the violation of BOP regulations, it came to light that Diddy's communications weren't limited to traditional methods. He was allegedly using a third-party app to continue his communications, which suggested that someone inside the system might be helping him maintain a back channel of communication. This raised even more red flags, signaling that Diddy had possibly been working to keep his communications hidden from authorities, making it harder to monitor and control his activities. The combination of these violations, the potential for witness tampering, and the issue of trusting his release conditions ultimately led to the court's skepticism about Diddy's ability to follow the rules if granted bail. The prosecution's argument that his private security could be manipulated and the continued use of hidden communication methods only added weight to the concerns about his behavior, leaving the judge hesitant to grant release under any conditions that might place trust in his compliance.
Any issue there?
Again, if he's contacting his attorneys, it's usually, it always is attorney-client privilege, unless there's a third party involved. Some people don't feel comfortable talking to their attorneys on jail calls. Even though they know they're not supposed to be listening to those calls, I can tell you they do listen to some of those phone calls. They're not supposed to. They might not use it in a court of law. But a lot of times you find that they oh, sorry, by accident, I didn't realize it was his attorney until I was 3 minutes in.
Right.
So I don't take much of that unless, like I said, unless they have some damning evidence that he is doing something crazy on those phone calls or he's doing something crazy on that application. Other than that, just using it doesn't
I guess
really speak to a lot.
I guess the counter argument would be, putting aside what the content is, we'll get to that. if he's breaking the rules of the prison, right? This is not the prison. If he's breaking the rules of the detention center, should he be on the outside? Is he going to flout the rules of his bail? That would be the argument.
Yeah, I mean, that's a better argument, but the problem is that, you know, quote unquote, breaking the rules by making phone calls and things of that nature, unless those phone calls are the prohibited thing. Like if I am calling a witness directly and having direct witness contact by using this kind of obscure messaging and things of that nature, yeah, 100%. But I think just because he uses third-party calls, that's like, you know, like I said, 99% of the cases do that.
Okay, so let me, there's just so much to get to, so I want to get through everything with you. So the prosecutors have indicated that they will produce these calls to Combs and his lawyers through a filter team prior to what is a scheduled bail hearing on November 22nd, 2024. We're going to be covering that on Law and Crime. But then they write this. On multiple calls, often using the PAC numbers of other inmates, the defendant is explicit about his intention to use public statements to alter public perception. And the defendant leaves no doubt that the narrative he wants to leave is the potential jury pool's perception of this criminal proceeding. And examples of these efforts, they say, are plentiful. And then they black out and they redact all of those examples. First, Bradford, why the redactions?
Well, the redactions probably because they don't want it to then make it public what his position is. Like, I didn't do it. This one witness, she did X, Y, Z. I'm sure that there's things in there that the government doesn't want the public to hear because the government has their narrow view of what's going on, right? And whenever the defendant then wants to address that narrow view and put out his own statement or address it in a different way, they want to curtail that because they have a certain way to look at a case. They don't want anyone looking at it differently. I find this to be the most ironic thing. It's like, it's hypocrisy at its best because although the New York Southern District office does not themselves leak things often, they have in the past, but in this case, I don't think there's any evidence that they leaked.
Speaking of leaks, remember that viral phone call between Diddy and his kids, the one people speculated might be AI generated. Turns out it could have been legit. The details of the leaked conversations eerily align with the latest revelations. Oh, and about those pizza boxes he mentioned, some conspiracy theorists are saying it could be code for something far darker. This gets messier when you factor in Jay-Z, who's been accused of shady dealings of his own in the John deal. Diddy's former bodyguard even spilled tea about Jay-Z's calculated moves to keep himself out of the crossfire, suggesting he's just buying time while the walls close in.
How do you feel about people constantly trying to drag Jay-Z into this Diddy situation when I haven't really seen like one piece of evidence that ties him to this at all?
Well, I would say this. It's kind of funny to me, man, is that Diddy used to hate Jay-Z. He hated Jay-Z enough when he was trying to get Ja Rule to go at Jay-Z. This is back in the early 2000s. And one day, Asner, Kushner, Diddy, and myself went to a Nets game and we met Jay-Z. I've never been a Jay-Z fan, like some of his music, the whole 9 yards. But when we went over to the, I think that was Prudential Center in Newark, and him and Puff met up, it was strange to me. Because I remember what Puff was trying to do. And then both of them, they was talking about something amongst each other, amongst all of us, and laughing and joking with each other. Then over the years, I see them giving garden parties. You understand what I'm saying? You could tell that the people in power had gave that reign to Diddy, and Jay was next in line. So to separate him when in fact they may be two of the same, but because Jay-Z is low-key, that low-key sneaky and Diddy is and was rambunctious, you know, just out with it. It don't mean that they not two of the same. One just a little quiet with it.
What happened at the basketball game? When they ran into, you guys ran into Jay-Z?
They were just talking. They was talking amongst each other about their little white girls. They little skinny white.
Jaguar Wright has boldly spoken out about Jay-Z's alleged secrets, claiming this new wave of accusations is her redemption after facing backlash during her interview with Morgan. She's been unapologetically vocal, standing firm in her beliefs despite the criticism she received for speaking.
It's now being talked about louder than ever. I guess, does that give you some peace to know that people are finally really questioning this man?
It's emboldening me. I spoke on Piers Morgan. I said that I had 3 victims that I've been working with, victims of the Carters, that were ready to come forward. This might help them feel a little more confident now. So this is great because he's been evading. But the thing is, everyone in the backdrop knew that he was the celebrity John Doe. Everybody knew that. They knew it when I did Piers Morgan.
Is Beyonce celebrity B?
I hope to God not. But she was around. And she's very... she's got enough on her plate. After everything that happened with the election and everything that's happening right now, I'm not going to dump on that woman. She got better fish to fry. Well, what I will say is that her husband, she knows exactly who he is.
Yeah.
She knows. She knows.
I want to give you props though, because on your channel, which I want to plug, you Jaguar Right Effect, you guys can support it. You posted last night, your first response was reposting the unedited Piers Morgan interview, which I found very ballsy and very telling. And again, this is where it all came from, where Piers Morgan was scared by Alex Spiro, Jay-Z's attorney, proving they are watching and they're being litigious. I got to watch my back, Jaguar. I appreciate you
That's fine.
getting that. And I don't want to lose my platform. I can't afford
God,
Alex
no.
Spiro.
I wouldn't want that for anyone. I don't want anyone to lose their platform.
He's good. He's good too. Right or wrong.
He's real good.
What I wanted to take this video for is we're going to have Jaguar live tomorrow around 4 p.m. Eastern. She's coming back for a long-form conversation. We're going to hear plenty. If you got questions, come ask them. Jonas, tomorrow, hit the subscribe. Jaguar, I want to do a victory lap for you here. I want to say, because people say you're being crazy, but the reality is I think you were onto something before a lot of us, specifically about Jay-Z. And there are some clips I want to watch with you, particularly one of Rihanna that really freaked me out. This clip, guys, if you haven't seen it, which I hadn't seen it until this morning when I saw this headline, Kim found it for me. Let's watch this clip quickly.
Crazy
Let's
that you
watch
haven't
Tyra
seen
pushing to get this out of Rihanna, and when it does, man, it made me feel very, very uncomfortable.
Audition. Yeah, but before I met him, I was so nervous. I was shaking literally. But the moment I walked into the office, the atmosphere was so warm and welcoming.
And you had to sing a cappella for him?
Yes, I had to sing. I sang Fun to Replay. I sang another ballad from the album last time.
So then what did he say to you? He said something to you.
Oh yes, he said, we don't sing songs here, we sing artists. And there was this little pause, and I was nervous. But then he said, and we're interested. And there was this sudden feel of relief.
But then he said something about a window and a door or something.
Oh, then he said, he did it homework.
I did a lot of homework on you, this lady.
He said, there are 2 ways to leave here, either through the door with the deal signed or through this window, and we're on the 29th floor.
So you was like, where's the pen? Where's the paper? I'm signing.
Yeah.
The audience is so uncomfortable. Like, I don't know if Tyra was trying to get that on the record, but my God, what Jaguar, He threatened her. This is her own words coming out of her mouth. And she was a kid at that time, correct?
15-year-old girl who had been flown to the United States without parental supervision or a chaperone, brought to a grown man's office in a large corporate Manhattan building. Everybody knew when she flew in. I was there the day she got signed. Everyone was talking about it. And the 6 hours that she spent with him, and the 4 hours that she spent alone with him with no parental supervision. Her father didn't show up till the next day to come and collect the check.
Well, and there's
this is her life.
The rumors were even beyond that, right? That Jay-Z was cheating on Beyonce with her when she was
Very much
17
so.
is what a lot of this came out through a publicist who later then
Have
had
you
to
spoken
apologize.
to my friend Jonathan? Hey, you should talk to Jonathan.
Please.
Because Jonathan was there. He was right there working with Rihanna. And it was right when they started crafting her to be seen as a brand and commodity only and not a person. And when I talk to Jonathan now, just to hear him when he thinks of his teenage daughters, he was like, Rihanna was the same age my girls are now. I couldn't imagine putting my daughters through what we put her through. And then the next thing you know, she was removed from that first team from Palm the Replay and replaced with all new handlers and kept sheltered in Los Angeles, where she was going out to parties and partying at 15, 16, 17 years old, hanging out at the Rainbow Room, hanging out. Yeah, like it was one of my friends who found out she was 17 when everyone thought she was 21. And he was like, yo, why do y'all got me carrying this girl around and she's as cool as...
And then there's 50 Cent, who's been dragging Diddy online and keeping the juiciest details under wraps for his upcoming documentary. If his teasers are anything to go by, it's going to be explosive.
Mr. Cheeks is puffy.
See?
Why you gotta
What?
bring
Why
that
would you
up?
say? What do you mean?
They
See,
think the
man?
kids think Mr. Cheeks is puffy.
Oh, no, voice-wise? No, the
No,
name.
they-
The name, bro.
Oh,
no, bro. Come on,
You say
man.
Mr. Cheeks, they think you're talking about puffy.
No, we're talking.
why did you-
They do not know what that is. This is it's too early.
Fair.
I'm just saying to you, let's just lighten up,
I
be a
was
little
trying
bit
to-
more youthful.
Listen, you have a lot of amazing things going on.
Yeah.
Right?
Residency in Vegas.
Residency in Vegas. I wanted to talk
It's
about
gonna be
what you're
fun,
doing in
too.
Baton
Yeah.
Rouge, the whole business, the whole. I want to talk about that. I did not want to get into Puff.
I
and
know,
the
but as soon as I
documentary.
see you, I feel like we're supposed to fight.
Why?
Because he
Because he
ruined.
knows he's responsible.
No, he's ruined
He
hip
knows
hop
he's
culture. Look
responsible.
at this, New York City culture, music is damaged because of him specifically. He was the program. When I say people respond, how people respond to things matter. Like the internet will take to it and just go off with it. Meek responds being the uncomfortability. He goes, yo, nah, I gotta spend $100,000 to find out why my name is in this like this. And it's in it only because he's uncomfortable. You don't hear him talking about French. French was right there. Right? Why you get so quiet? You guys make me feel like I'm scared.
Well, we're listening.
Now, do understand that I don't believe everybody.
Right.
Like the accusations are way too fast and it's wild. Like it's like I'm like
Meek Mill tweeted, I want to hire an investigative team to find out every specific detail involving Meek Mill named to Diddy case. I also want to look at who's powering the media involving Meek, anything to do with Buddy. And ends in quote.
A detective from the Tupac case revealed why Diddy avoided jail time years ago, also hinting at his behavior during the Biggie Smalls investigation. The detective painted a picture of Diddy as someone more focused on self-preservation than grieving his close friend's death, raising questions about his priorities.
My perceptions have changed slightly, gradually over time. Today, I look at Diddy with through a different lens than I might have 10, 15 years ago. There were obviously some early red flags, but it's a complicated thing because we have to be very careful about falsely accusing people or even, making accusations based on nothing more than speculation. And we just haven't seen all the evidence. So I prefer to kind of withhold judgment on some things. I can tell you regarding Diddy back when Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls were he wasn't exactly cooperative. He didn't do what you would assume a friend or a manager, so to speak, would do. So from a law enforcement perspective, he was very unhelpful in an area where he ought to have been contributing towards getting some type of justice in those two cases. But as we found out in time, he was complicit in one of them, and which would make sense why maybe he didn't cooperate in the other, because the two were, they were just, we always understood that they were somehow interconnected. And so if you're going to cooperate or provide information on one and you're culpable in the other, one thing could lead back to the next. And that's where I think he understood his own vulnerability. 1995, I believe it was.
And then Tupac was shortly after that, and then Biggie shortly after that, within a year or two.
Yeah, Tupac killed in September of 96 and Biggie killed in March of 97. But there was all kinds of other drama and hostility and gunplay that had...
Carter's tragic death, which has long been chalked up to personal struggles, now new theories are linking his untimely end to Diddy, sparking fresh.
Following developing news tonight in Lancaster, where pop star Aaron Carter has died at the age of 34.
Yeah, the troubled performer grew up in the limelight, but he was in and out of rehab several times in his short life. Chris Wolf is live for us in Lancaster. He's got more on this. Chris?
Yeah, Rick, MB, the street is now cleared. People have been moving in and out of that home behind me all day. And tonight we heard from some of those closest to Aaron Carter, and they all say the same thing. They all share stories of a very kind, loving, caring, humble, yet troubled young man. It's the tragic death of a young performer, and now family, friends, and fans around the world are suffering the loss. Singer, rapper, actor Aaron Carter is dead at the age of 34. Oh my God. Carter's close friend and stylist shared this video of a recent birthday celebration for Carter's fiancée, Melanie Martin. She is also the mother of their 11-month-old son, Prince.
It's very painful, very, very painful. I talked to him 2 weeks ago. He was at the dentist and he FaceTimed me. He said, come over. And I said, I have work to do. I wish I could have just go see him at least one more time.
Aaron Carter's mom has made a pretty remarkable decision. She has decided she wants the world to see the death scene, where the bathroom where Aaron was found dead. And the reason for this is she is calling out the police and feels like they did not do a proper investigation here, because she is certainly insinuating that there may have been foul play involved in Aaron Carter's death.
We're gonna bring her on, but before we do, I just want to make something really clear. The police have said it was not foul play. They have not identified anybody as a person of interest, a suspect, anything like that. The operating theory is he was huffing and he overdid it and died in the bathtub. So that's the operating theory. She has a different point of view.
Right. The photos that she has released show the bathtub. It shows the floor around the bathtub, and there are things that she sees there or doesn't see in these images that that make her suspicious, and she wanted to make sure that Aaron's death remains something that people are talking about. And I think she's insinuating she wants people to put pressure on the police to do a thorough investigation. So joining us now to talk about why she put these out is Jane Carter, Aaron's mom. Jane, welcome to TMZ Live.
Thank you so much.
So Jane, why don't you walk us through what troubles you about that scene, about the things that you saw in the photograph?
And the things that you've heard happened in the house.
Oh, well, the first day, I mean, I got a call. The first thing, I got a call from my daughter, Angel, and she said that Aaron was found in the pool. So then I found out later that he was found in a tub, and it just, everything, the stories just kind of kept changing. But I was very